Happy Friday the 13th, my spooky
Oh.
little creeps. And welcome back to the Horror Ghouls, where we dissect horror movies like a camp counselor in the woods after dark. Ooh,
Mm.
see what I did there? I'm T.
I'm Megan.
And tonight, for our After Dark episode, I'm taking you back to the depths of Crystal Lake, where the blood runs thick, the screams are
Mhm.
loud, and the trauma always remains unresolved.
Sure does.
Of course, on the last Friday the 13th, which was back last year, I believe it was in September of last year, we had a Friday the 13th.
That
So
long
now,
ago. Wow.
I
Huh.
know. And so now we're having another one. It is June, Friday the 13th. And in typical fashion, we are going to be reviewing Friday the 13th, part two. Okay. And
Buckle up,
it's right.
bitches. No.
And so this is directed by Steve Miner, and this is his first time in the director's chair, but far from his last ride in this genre. This movie trades the who done it energy of the original for a hulking shadow lurking just beyond the tree line, and introduces a version of Jason Voorhees that is more the town that dreaded sundown than hockey mask. And if you know that movie, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, you know what we're talking about. But don't worry, he still brings the carnage. So get comfy, not comfy. Get comfy, lock the cabin door, and maybe skip the skinny dipping because Jason's watching and he's got a pitchfork with your name on it.
Jason's a pervert.
Mhm.
Just saying.
He
Mm.
is. He is such a perv.
Pervert.
So let me tell you the main players. And before I tell you the main players, because this is an After Dark episode, this is going to be a little bit of a speed run. So don't expect it to be a full-blown review. This is just a little bit smaller because it is an After Dark episode and it's Friday the 13th and it's a special one. So
Special edition just for
yes,
you guys.
just for you. So
Mm.
let me introduce the main players. We have Jenny Field, who is the psychology student and camp counselor. She is the assistant to Paul Holt, and she is known for her resourcefulness and her very strong final girl presence. And of course, like I said, we have Paul Holt, who's the head counselor, and he's at the new training camp that is near Camp Crystal Lake. We also have Jeff and Sandra. They are a couple who are eager to explore the Forbidden Crystal Lake. We have Alice, who is the survivor from the first movie, and she does appear just in the opening sequence, which we will talk about briefly in a moment. We have Terry, who is a counselor who is known for her athleticism, and she has a very memorable skinny dipping scene, which gives us our quintessential nude woman of the movie. We have Scott, who is a handsome counselor who has his eyes set on Terry or her dog. We also have Mark, who is a wheelchair-bound counselor with a very positive attitude. And then we have Vicky, who has a crush on Mark, and she is interesting. I will discuss her a little later. And of
Yeah.
course, we have the creme de la creme, the man of the hour, Jason Voorhees, who is played by two different people, Warrington Gillette and Steve Desk
Gutenberg. Sorry.
Wise. I can't say his last name. You know how I am with names. But Steve is the stuntman and Warrington is the main character, which there is a point of contention with that later on, but we will get to that. And Jason is making his first full appearance as the killer, and he dons a burlap sack over his head with one eye. Okay.
Sure does.
Yes. So here's your spoiler-free tea that's a little lukewarm. If you're in the mood for an early 80s slasher chaos movie with that classic campfire horror vibe, Friday the 13th Part 2 brings it hard. Set 5 years after the infamous Camp Crystal Lake massacre, exactly 5 years from the death of well, not Jason Voorhees, but death of his mother. This sequel leans into the legend of Jason Voorhees and introduces a group of young counselors who are exactly the kind of bold, flirty, and slightly clueless characters we'd expect from this genre. The pacing starts slow and chill, giving you time to settle in and gives you time to meet the characters, but don't get too comfortable. Once it shifts gears, the tension builds very fast and kills come quicker than you can scream, "Don't go in there." This film has that gritty, woodsy aesthetic that makes you feel like you're deep in the forest with no cell signal, no help, and definitely no damn common sense. What
None. Right.
none. But what really sets this movie apart is the atmosphere. It's not overly flashy or gory like the latter series or latter entries. It's more of a mood, it's a vibe. Creepy shadows, rustling leaves, and that ever-present sense that someone is watching. It walks the line between suspense and slasher, never fully letting you relax. There's a rawness to it, and while it definitely doesn't reinvent the wheel, this is a classic slasher movie. It does sharpen the blade just a little bit. So if part one was the spark, part two is the wildfire creeping through the trees. We'll say that.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So that is your spoiler-free tea if you're interested in watching this movie without any spoilers. Because now we're going to get into the full plot of Friday the 13th Part 2.
All right.
All right, so we start off with our last final girl, Alice Hardy, the sole survivor from the original film. She's trying to move on and she's having a crazy dream about Mrs. Voorhees, the scene basically where she's fighting Mrs. Voorhees and whatnot.
Great fight
And
scene.
right, definitely creepy fight scene.
Great.
And
Epic.
so she wakes up from her dream and she's, talking to her mom. She's like, I have to get on with my life. But she opens up her refrigerator and notices Mrs. Voorhees' severed head in her refrigerator. And immediately after, she is murdered with an ice pick to the temple by an unseen assailant, later revealed to be Jason Voorhees, of course. So
Hmm.
who knows how this Jason Voorhees, who I did a little research and found out that at the time of the first murders, well, the first movie, which is 5 years prior, Jason would have been approximately 25 years old. So at this
Mm,
point, he's approximately 30 years old as an undead serial killer. Um,
gotcha.
so how he figured out how to find where Alice was, who knows?
The white
Because
pages, of course. I
right,
don't know.
because actually in this part with Alice takes place 2 months after part one. So
Huh.
this is 2 months right after she killed his mother. So somehow he became undead in that time and grew up and turned 25 and was able to kill her
He
at
has
her
a lot going
house.
on.
He
Yeah.
did.
Hmm.
Very interesting. So at this point, we jump 5 years later, and this is when the counselor training begins. And we're seeing, a bunch of the characters and whatnot. And Paul Halt opens up to everyone talking about what they're going to be doing at this training center. On the first night, and it's all the characters I listed earlier, which and a few other ones that they don't mention, because there's quite a few counselors here, but there are some characters that are like throwaway characters that you either never hear from or don't see. They're
Right.
not necessarily killed, but they're just not characters that are important at all. They're fillers, basically. Glorified extras, I would say. So on the first night, Paul shares the legend of Jason Voorhees. They're around a campfire, and he's talking about how he may have survived the drowning and how he now lurks in the woods seeking revenge for his mother's death. But this story concludes with one of the characters, Ted, who is a goofball, scaring the group in a mask, and he's half naked wearing like a loincloth or something,
Yeah.
revealing that all of this was a prank to basically get that out of their system, because all the counselors are wondering about Jason Voorhees. They're so close to Camp Crystal Lake. This is like Camp Tomahawk or something like that. I
Right.
forget the name, or Camp Paddywhack. I don't know. I kept thinking pancake when I was reading it.
Good
But
enough. Good
yeah,
enough.
so they're at a place that's adjacent to Camp Crystal Lake, but not Camp Crystal Lake. So he's just like, look, I want you guys to get over it. That night, as you may have remembered, there was a guy called Crazy Ralph in the first movie. He was the one who
Yes.
warned everyone, like, you're all gonna die if you go down there. He was very, very crazy, and they called
Do
him a
it the right
goon.
way. Do it the right way.
Y'all gonna die, die, die. Once again, bringing Jet back. Yeah,
The
y'all gonna
series
die.
continues. This tradition continues.
Oh my God, you guys are gonna be sick of me. You're gonna be sick of me talking about Jet all the time. Yeah. Yeah. We care about we take care of our order out here.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'll never
Jason,
get sick of
Jason's
it.
Jason's your problem now. So
I love the fact I just think of him like coming, just stepping out from behind a tree and saying that, and then just he goes away. That's it. That's
watch out, you're
it.
about to be killed by somebody. But yeah, so that night, Crazy Ralph is like lurking in the trees for some reason, and they make you think that it's somebody else, but it's him. Paul and Jenny are dating, and so he's watching them like make out, and he
Because
hears
he's a
a
pervert, because this
he
movie's full of
is.
perverts,
He
right?
is.
Mhm.
And he hears a twig snap and he turns around, but he ends up getting garroted by an unknown assailant. Okay. And if you don't know what a garrote is, it's basically like a wire where when you get choked, it has like two handles on the ends and you
Yep.
get choked like that. So yeah, he gets
That's what happens when you're a pervert.
right. So he gets
Yeah.
garroted. So
Nope.
approximately the next day, again, these movies they never really tell you how many days are between things, so I'm just going to assume it's the next
It's your
day.
best guess. Best
Right.
guess. Yep.
But we have Jeff and Sandra, the couple, who decide they're going to sneak into the restricted Camp Crystal Lake and they discover a dead animal, which they think it might be one of the other campers' dog, well, Terry, because Terry had a dog named Muffin. And
Muffin.
Muffin had gotten out and was lost basically, and so they're like, "Oh my God, it might be Muffin." But as they're looking at this dog, or well, actually they don't know what it is because it's mangled. Whatever it is, it's mangled. While they're doing that, they are caught by Deputy Winslow, who is
Carl.
like, right, who's basically like, "What are you doing over here? It's restricted." And he takes them back to the camp and he basically complains to Paul, like, look, you can't have these camper or these counselors going over there. I'm basically, you're going to get in trouble if they don't stay away from Camp Crystal Lake. It's restricted. A little later, as Winslow's leaving, he spots a masked man in the woods. He chases him to what seems to be like maybe a little shack or something. And he looks bewildered by what he sees in the shack. We don't know what's in the shack, but he is killed with a hammer claw. So that's the end of
Womp
Deputy
womp.
Winslow. Yeah.
Yep.
So that
R.I.P.
right, rip rip. So that night or another night that ensues, who knows? Paul takes some of the counselors, including Ted, to a local bar. And of course, there are some remaining counselors at the camp. Terry goes skinny dipping in her quintessential naked scene, which Megan and I were kind of discussing earlier. She takes everything off. She gets bald. Listen, I'm pretty sure this episode will come out after that other episode, the sleepaway camp episode.
Oh yeah.
And so
Hmm.
she's a fresh chicken getting bald. She's a baldy out here.
It
Um
was like I was surprised because like you see it happens a lot in these movies where people, they're topless, they're whatever. So I'm watching it and everything goes and I was like, "Oh my God, they're going to show everything." And they did.
yeah.
And they
Yeah,
gave that to us. So,
they did.
yep.
So hooray for Terry going skinny dipping. Mind you, she has been looking for her dog because again her dog has been missing.
She's not
Um,
that concerned if she's taking a break to go skinny dipping,
No,
but
because I thought she was going to go out and look for her dog, but instead she like hesitated and decided to strip naked and get into the water for no reason. Jeff and Sandra go off to do the do. They were inside the cabin, but they decided to go off and do the do. And Vicky flirts and plays a game with Mark, later inquiring if his legs are the only things that are paralyzed down below.
that's so inappropriate.
It really was. It was
Yeah.
very inappropriate. Like you could tell what she was getting. She's like, so what happened to you? He's like, I was in a motorcycle accident. I hurt my legs. Oh, okay. Is that the only thing that's hurt? Ma'am, why don't you just ask him if you can sit and spin? I
Please
mean,
remove yourself. Like, please go away. Like, it's crazy. I was like,
right,
oh, wow.
right. And so she's so subtle. Um,
Super subtle.
Right. So now Scott has also stayed behind as well. And whilst Terry is skinny dipping, Scott steals her clothes, making her chase him for said clothes. But Scott is caught in a snare trap and ends up upside down. And while Terry runs off to go get a knife to cut him down, someone else comes along and they have a knife, but they don't cut him down, they cut his throat. So there's that. And when she returns, she sees that Scott is dead and screams, but she's looking as if she's looking at a killer. And now we don't know if she gets killed right then because the screen cuts. And that's that for those two.
Hmm.
Now, at the bar, Jenny, Paul, and Ted are debating whether Jason is actually real or a legend. And Jenny, she is the psychologist of the group. She notes that Jason would be grown now and that his mother is all he ever knew. She assumes that Jason saw his mother get killed 5 years ago. And despite the fact that he's allegedly dead. Like this boy allegedly drowned. So for him to be alive and see his mother die. I don't know. This is never explained throughout the entire series. They never really explain this.
Never.
So it is what it is. But Paul doesn't believe her and he repeats that Jason is only a legend. And that's that. Now, Vicky leaves to go prepare for an arousing night with Mark. And she go she goes to her cabin and she opens up this drawer and she pulls out this pair of Tim gold foil looking panties, smiles to herself, takes off her dirty panties and puts on the fresh ones without showering, without wiping, without doing anything except for spraying some perfume on her trout. So I just I have a problem with that because here's my thing. The man you're trying to get was in is in a wheelchair. He still has his sense of smell. The fact that you just decided to take your dirty, nasty trout panties off and put on some new ones without taking any type of shower or preparing or anything and just spraying perfume like that's cute.
Hmm.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I don't know what kind of like situation you thought was going on, but no, ma'am. And they were ill-fitting. They were the worst looking underwear. Like she was leaning over inside of a car looking for a brush in her panties, and I was like, why would they even do? I felt bad for the actress. I said, ma'am, I know your body must look better than this, but what they got you in right now, baby, it is not working.
Criminal. Yeah, yeah, no. It's
I
not the,
mean,
that's not the look.
Terry took the creme de la creme getting ass naked. And so they said, well, we can't let everybody look good naked. So we
Right.
just gotta
Only
go
one
ahead and
person per
right,
movie, I guess.
right. I'm just flabbergasted at the fact they just had this girl take off her dirty panties and they show her taking off her dirty panties and putting on brand new ones without showering or going to the
Mhm.
bathroom. Even if they would have let her go to the bathroom and she would have came out in the different panties, I'd have been like, I can't dispute it. I don't know. She might have been in there wiping herself. She might have been in there taking a whole bath. But
Maybe. We don't know.
no, she kept she
Nope.
changed her sweater and changed her panties. Anyway, that was the most that part bothered me the most about this whole movie. As you could tell, I was so fucked up over that. I was like, oh, that's gross. Anyway, this is gonna be controversial, and I'm sorry if at some point somebody sees this and they're offended, but I don't care. This is as nasty as you get in the shower and not washing your legs and just letting the soap run down your body, thinking that your legs are clean. Wash your damn legs.
Wash your legs, everyone. That's the message.
Wash
Wash
your
your legs.
legs. And wash your coochie while you're at it.
I had to be taking a drink at that moment that I almost did a spit take for all to see.
This is how After Darks go, people. So,
It's called After Dark for a reason.
yes. Besides the fact that we shoot it after dark,
Also,
but
it's nighttime.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
also that, yes.
So, anyway, um, what I actually wrote here, I said, as Vicky leaves to go prepare for an arousing night with Mark, taking off her dirty panties to put on clean ones and some perfume, it starts to rain. A must-have for a night of killing. That's exactly
Yes,
what I wrote.
it's true.
So, all right. So now, Mark, thinking he hears Vicky with her new drawers on, um, he calls out to her, but he is struck in the face with a machete and falls backwards down a staircase.
Wah wah.
Which yeah, that's unfortunate. Mark was a nice guy, but I'm glad that he missed out on Trout. So he deserved better than that. He at least
He
deserved
did.
a shower.
He
But
did.
anyway,
He did.
so we now go back to Jeff and Sandra who are finishing their orgasms. Which is also weird. It just cuts to them being like, ooh, and I'm doing it real plain because I don't want to actually
We're gonna get
do what they did.
canceled. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, oh, yay. And
It's just like
oh, yay, hooray! We've reached the mountaintop.
wow.
So
I
they
like
finished.
I like the oh yay. Oh yay. Yeah, that's
So
great.
they finished their night activities and they bask in the stank of their love. And it's not long. It's,
Ah,
it's not long before the killer comes in and impales them together with a spear in the bed. And this is a nod to Kevin Bacon's scene in part one because he also gets impaled through the neck in a bed. Um,
I'm just gonna one for 1 second. Fully forgot that Kevin Bacon was in the first one until this moment.
yeah.
Fully forgot. Okay.
I kind of did too, but then I was like, oh yeah, 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 he was in that one.
When you
And
said it, I
he
was
did
like,
good.
oh, right, with the bunk and the thing. Got it. Got it.
Hmm.
It just took me minutes to get back there.
Back at the bar, Paul and Jenny leave Ted and the others to go back to the cabin. And so at this point, I'm going to say that Ted and all the other counselors that decided to go, which is about, I'm gonna say it's about five or six of them, they're all
Hmm.
alive. They all survive because none of them count and none of them go back. Ted is the only character that had speaking lines that was left alive. Everyone else, we don't know their names, we don't know who they are,
Nothing.
but they're there. They're there. And they're
Hmm.
going to it after hours because Ted was drunk and Ted asked some old people if there was after hours. And the old people were like, it sure is, Sonny.
They're like, oh, yes, of course. Of course we do
Right?
that around here.
Right?
And then Judd pops out the tree again.
The speakeasy's over here.
I love it. I like this
So,
remake. I want to watch the new version that we created, honestly.
right.
Go on.
So Vicky finally done freshening up, quote unquote, go
Finally.
goes
Finally.
back to the cabin looking for Mark, and she decides she's going to go upstairs to the room where Sandra and Jeff were, and she is surprised to find them dead and the killer laying in the bed waiting for her, and she
It
is
was
stabbed.
solid though.
Right.
That was a solid move, Jason.
It
Good job.
it really was. Because he's first of all, I'm like, damn, how did he even think like let me jump in this bed right fast and hide? Because he certainly was laying in the bed next to a dead body,
Hmm.
all covered up in the sheets. And as she walks over, he's like, surprise!
Surprise,
And
bitch. Yep.
right. And it
You know
just
what? I want to say because I really like this line from Dexter. Surprise, motherfucker. Yeah. You know, Dokes. Amazing delivery. But so really quick thing. Dexter Resurrection. It was just posted yesterday that it's coming out, and the caption on the picture said surprise motherfucker. Sorry, I love that reference. Go on, go on.
it's almost I can't remember what movie it is. I feel like it's probably one of the scary movies, but like there's a like a glory hole and someone puts their eye up to it and he's like, surprise, and they stick a dick in somebody's eye. I can't remember what movie it is, but every time I hear surprise, that's what I think of.
I like that we think of two wildly different things.
Yes. Oh my God.
Our references for surprise could not be more different.
No, not at all.
That's very funny.
Not at all. And don't expect me to find a picture of somebody putting a dick in somebody's eye. I'm not doing that.
We can't do it.
No,
No.
I'm not even bleeping out the word dick. I should be, but I'm not. So
Oh
I
man.
don't know how to do that yet. I'm still learning. But yeah, so surprise. So yeah, Vicky, she's stabbed in the stomach. And that's the end of her. There's blood that comes out of her mouth and that's that. As Jenny and Paul are returning, we do see that the killer, who at this point obviously it's Jason, but the killer is dragging one of the bodies down the steps. Um
Thump, 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 thump.
Right. Jenny and Paul, they return. The camp is deserted, and Jenny is immediately suspicious. And she checks upstairs and she finds a bloody bed that Sandra was in, but there are no bodies in this room. So all three bodies are missing. And so when they go back downstairs and there's a dark room and Paul is looking around, and Jenny, I'm not sure if it was just like it was too dark and she got a sixth sense, but she says, it's somebody in this room. And then Jason gets up with like his pitchfork and is like get ready to like jostle, like javelin throw it. And she's like, Paul, it's somebody in this motherfucking room. And the way she said it, I'm like, sis, you could have ran over there faster and
Yeah,
tried to
right?
help
It's
him.
too drawn out. Like
And once again, similar, it's almost similar to Sleepaway Camp. If you've seen our Sleepaway Camp review, and I talked about how when bad shit happens, people are just like, Jenny, though she's really smart and she is like the final girl energy of the movie,
Right.
she's still like, Paul, as Paul is wrestling with a man with a burlap sack on his head.
Right.
He is wrestling him to the ground. And instead of you going over and trying to like hit him in the back or something like that, you're just letting your
Just standing
man
there useless. Yep.
fist fight. Eventually, Paul is knocked unconscious. And that's that. So Jenny, there's a few little sequences, but Jenny flees to the woods and she hides in another cabin under a bed. And a rat comes up to her and it causes her to pee. And the scent alerts Jason to her position like a bloodhound. Now, I will say there's a point of contention in this part because people online have asked who peed under the bed. Because you see the pee, but if you look at the movie, when Jenny gets up, her pants are dry. So,
It was also the placement of the pee for me watching it that I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if you, I feel like this is very weird to like debate the very minuscule details here, but
right,
if you're laying on the ground and she's kind of sideways and she pees her pants, but she's wearing clothes, it's not going to just shoot out from under the bed like it did
right.
like a hose, right? It was just like pee immediately. It's like, no,
Un-
that would
un-
be
Unless she's
different.
Angela. So it's weird because people, I was looking on Reddit and reading what people thought, and someone was like, it was the rat, and someone was like, the rat wouldn't let out that much pee.
You
And then
know, it
some,
wouldn't.
right, and like they were arguing back and forth about it being the rat or it being Jenny. And people were saying, but Jenny's pants were dry. And they're like, okay, but it's a movie. And it's
Yeah, but it's definitely not the rat. Like, come on.
right.
Come on, guys.
So, I mean, I'm just going to assume that Jenny peed and then it was a goof. It is
It
what
was
it
just
is.
done weirdly, yeah.
Yes, but her urine alerted Jason to her position. But this version of Jason is very clumsy because he's either clumsy or he's heavy as fuck because he gets up on a chair and he's standing over the bed. And when she crawls out from under the bed, she looks up and sees him. And as he's getting ready to spike her with the pitchfork, the chair breaks and he falls to the ground. And it's the most clumsy motion. And it almost reminds me of like, when you take superheroes, like there's that movie, I think it's called The Batman, with the sparkly vampire guy. Was it who played him? I don't know who played that Batman character, but anyway.
I'm like,
Um,
sparkly vampire guy. Like,
I
I'm
didn't
totally lost right now. Like,
I was
what?
thinking Robert Pattinson. I'm like, did Robert Pattinson play Bruce Wayne in the Batman? I don't know. I
Oh,
didn't see that movie.
I thought you were saying there was a sparkly vampire in Batman. I got so
No,
confused. I was like, what are we talking
no, no,
about?
no.
Robert
Um,
Pattinson did play a Batman. Yes, he was
okay.
Batman before.
So
Okay.
in that movie, The Batman, I believe that people said that that version of Bruce Wayne was very sloppy and he
Mm.
didn't have his skills yet. And this is the version of Jason that we're getting. The very first
He's just starting
iteration.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just brand new to the killing game
Well, he
and he
also
didn't
hasn't figured out his outfit yet because he looks like a goddamn farmer with his flannel and his freaking overalls and his
he does.
almost Tims, but then it looks like he changes them into like a black boot. I don't
Like
know. I don't know.
a
Anyway,
steel toe boot later on
yeah, I don't know.
because he's kicking ass.
Taking
Um,
names. Yep.
yeah, all he has is bubble gum.
I'm all out of bubble gum. Then
I
Roddy
came,
Piper sets out from behind a tree next to Judd. He
I came
delivers
here
his
to
load.
kick ass and chew bubble gum or some shit, whatever he said. I know everybody knows that line. It's classic.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I'm not saying iCard anymore because sometimes I don't feel like doing them, but iCard maybe, perhaps.
Maybe. We'll see what happens. We'll see how we feel about it. Yep.
Yes. So anyway, he breaks the chair, and that gives Jenny a chance to get her shit together. And in true Texas Chainsaw Massacre fashion, she finds a chainsaw and attacks Jason, but does not go all the way. She just like dips the tip in, and she drops the chainsaw and decides to hit him with a chair or a small table. I'm not sure what it was, and flees into the woods again, which was dumb because you had a chainsaw and you could have definitely put that through his back and took him all the way out, and that would have been the end of this series. But because this
Yep.
is a multi-faceted, multi-episode series, we couldn't take Jason out with a chainsaw, so it like hits his plated armor arm because it sparks, and then it's just done. So whatever,
On to
fail.
the next.
Yep. So Jenny discovers Jason's shrine to his mother, complete with her severed head and the bodies of Terry, the cop, and some other unknown remains, and which tells you that he has killed before. So we don't know who that person is because it's a skeleton. So it's been within the past 5 years, but we don't know who it is.
He's just making a xylophone. Like everyone knows that. Everyone knows that skeleton bones make xylophone sounds. Yeah.
And as I do the Little Mermaid song. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It's beautiful.
Um, Jenny decides she's going to don Mrs. Voorhees' sweater, and as Jason breaks in to the shack, she attempts to psychologically manipulate Jason, momentarily confusing him because she's like, Jason, come to mommy, kneel before me. And he like sees Jenny, but then he sees his mom, and he sees Jenny, he sees his mom, and it goes back and forth. But Jason realizes the deception eventually, and as he's getting ready to actually take Jenny out, they kind of like she has like a machete and he has like whatever he has, a hatchet or something, and they like clang together. But Paul, who was knocked out for 10 hours, decides he's gonna come save the day. How he found the shack, who knows? But he bursts in the door like Kool-Aid Man, and he starts fighting with Jason, and together they both subdue Jason. And Jenny pulls off his mask, and while we don't see his face, whatever Paul and Jenny see was enough to make them look visibly ill. They're like, "Oh God, Jesus!"
I thought
They
we did get to
leave.
see his face a bit.
Not then. We don't see
Okay.
it then.
Okay, okay.
So back at the cabin, Jenny and Paul, they're like, "Oh God, we made it back." And Jenny had to be carried because she had got sliced in the leg, and they hear a noise and they prepare because they think it's going to be Jason. But when they open the door, lo and behold, it is Muffin,
Oh my
Terry's
gosh.
dog.
Muffin
So
returns.
so
Yes.
Muffin was not the mangled mess that we saw
No.
in the woods earlier. Wherever Muffin was safe this whole entire time, safer than her owner and safer than most of these people in this movie.
Sure.
But suddenly, Jason, just like in the first movie, bursting out the water like some type of free willy whale, he bursts through the window unmasked. And this is where we see his face because they play it in slow motion, and he grabs Ginny and takes her to the ground. And right after that, Ginny wakes up and she's being put into an ambulance, and she's asking where Paul is. Where's Paul? Where's Paul? But his fate is ambiguous because we never find out what happens to Paul, Muffin, Ted, or the other people who were in this movie. We don't see anybody. But to be quite honest, somebody had to survive and someone had to call the police because clearly the ambulance would not be there for Jenny had that not happened.
That's true.
But that is how this movie ends, with us not knowing if Paul is alive or dead, if Jason bit the dust or ate the dust, whatever. If he if
He
he
ate the dust.
if he bit the dust, yes,
He ate it.
yeah,
I like that. I want to use that from now on. He really ate the dust.
right. And
Crazy.
we'll never find out if
Never.
those panties were actually clean or not either. So anyway, that is the end of Friday the 13th, part 2.
Part two.
Yes. So, before I go into fun facts about this movie, what were your thoughts about Friday the 13th Part 2?
Um, here's the thing.
I almost spit this out.
The biggest I'm like,
Yes.
So I liked it better than Sleepaway Camp. I'll say that. But also, I love Jason, but this is not the version of Jason I know and love. I do not like Pitchfork Jason. I know this is kind of the beginning, and the first one is like Mrs. Voorhees and whatever, but Jason for me really doesn't get started until three, right? So for me, this one's like iconic in its own way, but it's not high up on my list, even though it does exceed, like I said, Sleepaway Camp and whatever. So I liked it. It's still like early on in this like slasher genre, so it's like we built up from here. So I respect it. I just don't like totally love it, you know? I did think the jumping through the window is funny because it's like they distract you and then he jumps
Yes.
through looking like Sloth from the Goonies and you're like, "Oh shit." It's like, "Oh,
And that scene, actually, that's the only scene I jumped at because I wasn't expecting him to jump through the window.
yeah, yeah."
Yeah.
Well, because you have Muffin because they're distracting you and then she sits. I knew when
And the
she went in the
music was
cabin.
different.
Right. When she's sitting in the cabin, her back is to the
A
window. So I
window.
was like, well, that's not a good choice.
Right.
Um, which Jason took like full advantage of course. But I did like the scene. Like I thought it was interesting. Seeing someone try to reason with Jason really early on, like pretend to be his mom. She like even put on her like musty ass gross
Yeah.
sweater and seeing him kind of be like, mm, like, is this my
Mom?
mom? Yeah, like what? So interesting. Like I said, respect it, don't like 100% love it, but solid at the same time.
Yeah.
That's my sum up. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this was my first time seeing this, and I do realize I believe that the first movie was supposed to be a one-off, and they were never supposed to actually go into Jason. It was just supposed to be about Mrs. Voorhees, and that's it. So the fact that now we have Bag Over the Head Jason or Bago Jason,
Hmm.
um, I think that this was just them feeling it out because they weren't really sure where they were going with it. So that's why we get this hokey version of him with the Elephant Man face. And
Right.
so Which honestly, that Elephant Man face would not fit under a hockey mask if we're to be completely honest, like the way
Yeah.
it looks. So I don't know if he had plastic surgery later to fit under that mask or what. But anyway, I thought that this movie was okay. It was a little mid for me. I liked the first one better. And I think I liked the first one better because I felt like the storyline was a little bit more solid. I
Yeah.
felt like this one was very much a bridge. It was like, let's just make this movie so that we can introduce our new character and figure out where we want to go from there. Now, of course, we talk about this being Jason's debut. He is the primary antagonist, setting the stage for his role in this franchise. His outfit, as I talked about earlier, saying this was about a movie, his outfit is made to resemble the burlap sack killer of the 1976 movie The Town That Dreaded Sundown, with some minor alterations. He has one hole in his burlap sack for his eye, and also the pattern on his shirt is slightly different than the killer in that movie. I have never seen that movie. I will try to insert some pictures so we can see the difference between Bago Jason and the burlap sack killer.
Mm.
But I thought that was interesting that they decided to take from that. I don't know why. There was no information as to why they chose that person
Just
to
for
copy, but
funsies. Yeah.
yeah. Now I said earlier about the multiple actors playing Jason. One's played by Warrington Gillette for most scenes, but his stuntman Steve performed the more physically demanding scenes. And honestly, Steve played 90% of the role. One of the only times you see the main character or the main person, Warrington, playing Jason is like in scenes where he's not really doing anything, like his legs and stuff. Outside of the very first instance when Jason kills the girl from the first movie, that's a
Mm.
woman. There's a woman in that scene playing
That's
Jason.
interesting. Like, why
Yeah.
even have him at all then, Lily, if that's gonna.
Well, the thing was, in that famous scene where Jason jumps through the window at the end, it is Steve that does it. And they credited Warrington as the Jason. And so Steve was pissed. Steve was like, I did most of the stuff. Why am I not credited as Jason? Because people were saying, oh, that scene where he jumps through the window.
Right.
So in like the next movie, they kind of just credit Steve because they show flashbacks and whatnot. So yeah, there was they were fist fighting over who should be called Jason. So in a lot of places they're credited as both of them, which is how this movie is credited. Both of them are
Gotcha.
Jason.
Hmm.
But going forward, they try not to do that anymore, which is why they started hiring stuntmen to just play Jason, period. How we get our classic
Yeah.
Kane Hodder and
Oh.
whatnot.
Isn't it
Uh,
just but like, is there a better name for a stuntman than Steve? To literally just call him Stuntman Steve? Like it's
right,
amazing. That's
right.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So the makeup effects originally, special effects artist Stan Winston slated to work on the film, but he had to withdraw due to scheduling conflicts, which led to someone else taking over the role, which changed how things were going to look. So they had some other ideas in mind, but Carl said no, no. And so we don't know what this movie would have looked like had the other person done it. Maybe Bago wouldn't have been Bago. Maybe he
Right.
would have worn something else, but
Hmm.
maybe because his face would have looked different. But this is how the special effects person wanted to do it.
Sure.
Um, and then we have some censorship. This film faced significant cuts by the MPAA, which one of the movies we did, I can't remember if it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre who started the MPAA. I know we talked about this in one of our other episodes, but either way, because of that, the MPAA said, this movie is too gory because it was going to get an X rating. So they
Oh.
removed several gore scenes in order to bring this down.
Huh.
And one of those scenes was the impaling scene where the two people are in the bed.
Hmm.
They initially do show the actual impaling itself, but because it was too gory, that's one of the biggest scenes that they decided to cut out and just show a facial shot
Gotcha.
instead of the rest of it.
Okay.
Now, there is a short comparison between part one and part two. Friday the 13th, part two shifts the narrative's focus from the original's mystery killer to a more straightforward slasher movie. And while the first film's twist ending was a significant talking point, part two establishes the formula that would just define the series as a mass killer targeting young adults in secluded settings. So critically, part two received mixed reviews. Some people appreciated the introduction of Jason and the suspenseful elements, while others felt like this lacked so much originality, so much of the originality of its predecessor. Over
Hmm.
time, though, it's gained a cult following and is often praised for its atmosphere and the character of Jenny, who is considered one of the strongest final girls in all of horror history.
I think she was very strong, so
She
I think that's
was.
good. Yeah.
She was. That is the end of my
Fun
fun
facts.
facts. And I will say this though, I may have mixed up the difference between Steve and Warrington. I'm not sure, but if I did, then you will have seen a text previously on the the screen
Just something else for them
saying
to
who it
fight about
was.
still. They're still fighting about it to this day, so it's fine.
Yeah, so
Mm,
that's that. So with that
mm.
being said, how many bloody axes are you giving Friday the 13th part 2?
I even wish I could remember what I gave Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I feel like I gave Sleepaway Camp probably like the reason why I'm citing that is because these movies did feel so like watching them so close together. I was like, these feel similar to me, right? And with that being said, I did not love Sleepaway Camp, and I like this one more. It didn't feel like I said, like I was kind of saying before, it doesn't feel fully Jason to me because he's kind of just getting started. We're kind of getting to know who he is. He's still kind of getting to know who he is, and by he I mean the people writing him. Not like him
Right.
self-reflecting. Like, who is Jason singing the song from Mulan? Like, who is that girl I see? When will my reflection show who I am inside?
Mm,
With that being said, if I gave Sleepaway Camp, if I did, I would give this. See, I don't want to give it a 7. I don't feel like it gets a 7. I would give it like a 6.5,
fair.
right? Um, it's important to the series. It's their first appearance of Jason, so it is iconic in that way. The acting is decent. Ginny is a good final girl. The gore is solid. I would have liked to see the cuts that they made back in there to see how that would shake out. The dog lives. Perfect. Go for Muffin. So yeah, I'm happy with that. What about you? Your turn.
So as I was thinking about it, I think you may have given a slightly lower score because I feel like I may have given Sleepaway Camp, so you may have given it something lower. But I'm
Okay.
giving this movie a 5. It's a solid 5. 5 for me is good.
Hmm.
It's like it's okay. I think this is a solid movie. It wasn't anything that was not. It wasn't uninteresting. I was able to watch it. I think that the acting was solid. I didn't have any connection to any of these characters. I didn't
No.
care about them at all. Jenny is a strong character, but I also found her to be a bit pretentious. I didn't necessarily love her personality, but
Hmm.
I thought she was good as the character that she was supposed to be. I found Bago to be a little interesting because he was clumsy and he was trying to figure out who he was as a killer. And,
Right.
so we're definitely seeing a very young iteration of Jason Voorhees as he fumbles through trying to kill people because his accuracy was all the way off. If we look at Jason nowadays, Jason could like throw a pitchfork and like hit
Oh
somebody
yeah.
square in the neck.
He's super practiced at this point, so
Yeah, yeah, he's a master at his craft at this
sure.
point. So while I think he's okay, I was underwhelmed by everything as a whole.
Underwhelmed is such a great word for
Yeah,
this movie. I feel like, yeah.
yeah. It was very underwhelming. Like honestly, the first movie I felt it was so good, and I had never really like sat down and watched it. And of course, I haven't seen this one either. I've only really honestly, to be quite honest, I've seen parts of Jason X, but I've also the movie I've seen the most is Jason Goes to Manhattan. I've seen that one like at least 3 times.
Jason
Um
and the Muppets. Jason and the Muppets Take Manhattan.
right? So yeah, there's a lot of these movies I haven't necessarily like seen in full, and I just don't feel like this one is ever going to be like on the top of my list. I'm going to think that most of them outside of probably Jason X, all of these will probably get higher than 5. Um, but
I think so too.
we'll see. We'll see. I will say that there was a I didn't put this in the fun facts because I looked into some things and it didn't really add up, but I will say that this movie is reminiscent of the Friday the 13th video game. If you realize there was a video game that came out in
Mm.
2017, it was removed from all platforms on in 2024. It was a PC based game. The actual license to use Jason ran out, so they had to take it off
Aw.
servers. But they went through a lot of legal stuff. But I will say that this movie is very it doesn't have the same characters per se, but the look and feel of that video game is very similar to this. So I did feel a little connection to it that way because I did love that video game so much.
Okay.
Similar to like they had 2 cars and neither one of the cars worked, and it's kind of similar in the video game. And the characters running around, and it is what it is. But yeah, so I think a 5, and you gave it a 6.5. Decent enough scores.
Decent enough.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so I don't think I have anything else for this Friday the 13th episode of
I
After Dark.
don't have anything else for the Friday the 13th, but I would be remiss. I would be remiss if I didn't offer a correction. Not for this. In one of our recent After Dark movies, I mistakenly referred to a Halloween movie by the wrong title. And
Ooh,
I referenced a friend of mine being unhappy with kind of the content. We were talking about how he did not like Corey from the last installment of the most recent Halloween trilogy, right?
yes.
And this friend of mine responded in the comments saying, I can't even be mad. He didn't say this part, but it was implied because you are such an idiot that you said the name of the movie wrong a million times. So, with that being said, we kept calling the movie Halloween Kills. We were talking about Halloween Ends.
Ends.
Halloween Ends. That is the movie. I hope you are happy now, friend. You big fat jerk. Just saying.
Sorry,
Um,
Tyler.
Corey still sucks, and not no matter how many times we get the title of the movie wrong, that does not change anything.
I will
But
say that that comment gave me absolute joy. It was hilarious. I
it
loved
was very
it.
funny.
And it was
Made
so
me laugh.
funny because after we looked at it, and Megan was like, but our actual episode is correct.
Yes. Our
So our
actual episode,
episode,
we didn't get it wrong from the
right,
beginning.
right. We just got it wrong after we realized that we hated that movie so much. And
Because
I
it got
mean,
deleted from our brains. Like, come on.
yes, and I mean I should have done better because I actually like Halloween Kills. That is
Yes.
my favorite one, but I kept saying like, is it Halloween? I kept forgetting too. So I'm like, is it Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends? And so yeah, I kept forgetting. But I definitely always appreciate being set straight and having
Yes.
someone say like, hey, it's actually that. And I mean, it was a very funny comment. So
It was very funny and
thank
I
you.
appreciated it. And then he was like, but great job though. Like he
Yes.
tore us down and lifted us right back up. So thank you for that.
Yes. Thank you.
So like I said, I would have been remiss if I just pretended we got it right the whole time and just went on about our lives and our ghoulishness. So that was just my correction.
Yes.
I don't have anything else about Halloween
I'm certainly sure that
or
at
Friday the
some
13th.
point we will
Yes.
certainly mess up Halloween ends again because we
Oh
hate
yeah.
that movie so much. Next time it'll
Just
probably just be called like Halloween that last one.
whatever wrong with Corey in it, no one cares. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that will knock that one off its place of being the worst Halloween movie of all time is going to be the one that they're going to come out with next that should not have even been made. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not going to see that in the theaters like I saw these other ones.
You know what I
Um
would like to see, actually? Because
what
when you were talking about, the future Friday the 13th movies probably being rated higher, I was thinking about Freddy versus Jason. And I love that movie. But do you know what I would really like to see? Freddy versus Jason versus Michael Myers. All three, because I can't pick two again. I can't have it be like Jason versus Michael or Freddy versus Michael. Like, I need it to be the three of them.
right.
And I feel like that movie would be like a monster and it would be 3 hours long, but I'm here for it at the same time, you know?
Yeah. I honestly, in my mind, I like Freddie. I love Robert Englund, but Freddie is like out of those three, he's the last person I like. So I feel
Well,
like I would certainly wish that Michael and Jason, our two quiet unsung heroes, would
I
pull
was
Freddie from his dreamland and take him out first.
I was gonna say the two of them are the most similar,
Hmm.
right? They are the two most similar. So if they were gonna do another movie of just one versus one, it would make sense for it to be those two.
Right.
But I would love to have Freddy's nonsense mixed into that because both also the other two don't talk. So
Yes.
I would like that sprinkled in. But anyway, just if anyone's listening and can do something about that and make that for us, that would be appreciated. That's all I'm going to
Please
say.
do.
Yeah, that's all.
Please do. You can even make it a celebrity deathmatch version of it. I would take that, even though
Ooh.
they're probably I know that celebrity deathmatch definitely had Freddie and it definitely had Jason and I think it had Michael too. So they may have already fought before, but that those are classic episodes. If you know, you know. If you know, you know.
Late
But
night
anyway,
MTV back in the day.
yes. Anything else before we wrap things
That's
up?
it for me.
All
I actually
right.
do have, I'm just going to show him because he was just in my hand this whole time. That Freddy has been with me all.
Yay.
That's why he's like, tell them to put me in the movie. I'm not actually hearing voices from Freddy. It's okay. Don't worry.
No, it's
And I'm
actually
like,
Jason's mom that she's hearing these voices from.
don't forget to keep Jason in there. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Everything's fine.
Yes. From this blood splattered troll. Inside joke, sorry. And that's it for this blood splattered stroll through through Crystal Lake. Friday the 13th Part 2 may not have Pamela's sharp sense of style or that OG mystery setup, but it gave us Jason, who started carving his way through horror history, one shriek, one machete, one pitchfork at a time. So tell me, are you Team Pamela or are you Team Jason? Did this sequel slice deeper or did it just recycle the guts? We want to hear it all. Leave a comment, scream at us in a review, or even stalk us politely on socials. If you'd like to do that and you'd like us to be your creepy camp counselors, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Horror Ghouls. And if you want more spooky sessions in your ears, we're streaming on every podcast platform for your late night listening pleasure. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that notification bell so you never miss an episode from your favorite ghouls. So, until next time, stay spooky, take a shower before changing your panties, and remember, it's never a good idea to cosplay as an undead serial killer's mom.
That's a good point.
Yeah, all
All
right.
right.
Be part of that clean panty club. Have a good night.
See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.